They say that we only use a 10% of our brains. Well, that's actually a myth. We use 100% of our brains. The problem is like any other part of the body, if we don't feed it and exercise it, look after it, we can't unlock its true potential. In today's story, we meet a young mother whose life changed from one day to the next. It's her journey of how she helped heal herself with the power of the mind. Monique, I have to say this, but you are one of the very, very, very few people I know that smiles constantly. You're always smiley, always happy, you've got great energy, but this is no reflection to your story, because we're going to rewind now to the beginning of the day you felt like life was completely normal, and then the next day everything changed. What happened?
I was a very happy and passionate teacher. I lived for what I did. I loved my job. Obviously, I have a family of 4. I lived for them. Through my career, I developed a very, I teach music, so privileged to teach the 450 children, more or less, that school has. And through my experience, I was inspired to dig deeper into the emotional and mental support that I could be offering these children. So I studied into music therapy, I studied into art therapy, mindfulness was a very big one. Bit of energy medicine as well, EFT, NLP, cognitive behavioral therapy, to understand where these, the mind, body and emotional connection. And I started implementing these techniques into my lessons and doing lunch times and after school extracurricular workshops as well for the children. And little did I know, when everything was going wonderful, the children were benefiting, I felt I was thriving at my job. And these tools help us personally as well, so in my life as well I felt great. Then suddenly, from one day to the next, I couldn't walk because of my left leg. Although I had subtle pains there for about a couple of years, I never expected it to lead to this. So I was quickly, diagnosed by doctors. It was a very rare type of tumor that is called a PVNS diffuse tumor, which instead of growing in a contained manner, just grew through everything that it possibly could attach to. It's very destructible. It started eating away and deteriorating my bones and everything on its path. And it was very, it was challenging to carry that pain, but mentally I knew I had a choice. I knew either I go through this, I expected I'd be going through a bit of a roller coaster medically, trying to find solutions for this. And I made a very conscious choice of either I go through this journey happily, or I go through this journey allowing every negative experience that happens get to me and naturally affect my family as well. So it was a very conscious choice I made, and I am very grateful to have had the tools that I learned to implement in school for the children. They became my lifeboat through this challenging time.
What happened next?
Okay, so
it got worse, didn't
it? Firstly, it was having to deal with the realization that this tumor had no cure. Chemotherapy wouldn't work, radiotherapy wouldn't work, and there was nothing known to cure it other than extraction, operation, surgery. They attempted, and it was impossible due to
because it had woven into intricate areas.
That's it. And a part of me listened to what the professionals had to say, but a bigger part of me thought, I believe the body, I believe we as humans have the ability to heal things. The same way things come upon us, we're able to reverse that. I've always believed that, and I feel I was given the opportunity to explore this belief. Enduring so much pain, I continued my day-to-day work life on crutches, going up 28 68 steps a day up to my house, all the way down. And that set a very strong foundation for me that I could, I was managing, I was
Yeah.
happy. But then life took me through a more challenging experience where that my health got the better of me, and due to the tumor and the way it was growing very aggressively, I ended up with nerve damage throughout the whole body.
Yeah.
It's called CRPS, and the levels of pain were unimaginable. It was the nerves living in agony when, my fingers were fine, my toes were fine, my tongue, my face, the rest of my body was fine, but the nerves did, believed otherwise. So from then on, I was unable to move. I was bedbound, living in this extreme pain, levels of 30 to 50 of pains,
Wow.
something I would have never imagined.
And you couldn't be touched, could
I
you?
couldn't
Because
be
nerve
touched.
endings are the receptors on the whole of our skin and inside, and it's the skin which is the largest organ in the body, so anywhere would be excruciating.
Anywhere. So even talking was difficult, even drinking and eating was a huge challenge. So I went days without. I had to move out from my home. I couldn't live there because I couldn't be assisted to go to the bathroom, or in any way to move about. At that point, not even a wheelchair. It was even hard to sit on a wheelchair and or even have air hit my skin. Breathing was extremely difficult as well. So everything became a huge challenge physically. I moved away from my house. I lived at my dad's, which was right next to the hospital. Very easy, very accessible for me to move around, from the bed to the bathroom, although it took me an hour to get there. I got there because I couldn't walk either. So it was a bit of a catch-22, but through this experience came the biggest lessons for me personally, spiritually as well. I couldn't do anything outside, so all I could do was turn within, and it's almost like the physical world faded for me, and my connection within, with energy, with our existence, amplified through this experience. And there was great sadness with what I was living. There was. I could barely, my kids lost me for quite some time, at least those 7 months where I was.
You couldn't
it was very
even
hard
hug
to communicate.
them. You
I
couldn't
hug
hold them,
I
play
couldn't.
with them.
That's right. And the way I dealt with it, because that emotionally, I needed to cleanse my emotions. I needed to process them. I couldn't hold anything inside of me. Otherwise, those pains would magnify. No? So I was, very instinctively guided to release any suppressed emotions. So going through these challenging emotions gave me the opportunity to adapt my mindset even further. I started connecting with my children energetically. I couldn't be with them. I couldn't protect them. I couldn't, what I used to. I couldn't mother them like I used to. But I connected with them energetically constantly, sending them my love, just focusing on the gratitude for still being there, still being given a chance to fight this, still being, and even for my past, for having had enjoyed such a wonderful life with my family, with my kids. So I connected with them and everyone else, I was missing energetically, and just focus on the love I had for them, focus on the gratitude I had for them, and I wanted to make sure that that energy surpassed and overpowered anything that I was experiencing physically, so that when they came to visit, although they were seeing a very disabled body, they were feeling that love and that gratitude and that connection far greater than what they were seeing. And I did believe that that had a very strong part and a very strong power in what we experienced. I learned to find joy in those worst times, and it's almost like tapping into a world inside us where everything we need is right there. And that is what I am very, very grateful to have found through this difficult time. it taught me the power that not only I have, but we all have. I'm no different to anybody else. And surrendering to this pain, surrendering to what life is. You know, this is what there is. This is where I'm meant to be today. This is exactly what's meant to be happening.
Yeah.
I surrender to this. What can I do about it? I'm going to find my power. I'm going to find the tools I have to make this moment count. So love, gratitude, abundance, you know, it's who we are. And that we carry with us everywhere we go, no matter what our surroundings are telling us.
I think there's a lot out there that people do know about, you know, mindfulness and well-being and different therapies, and I think there is a lot out there.
Yeah.
I think the issue is how do you physically do it? I mean, I know what you're saying. It makes complete sense. But how do I physically do it?
Yeah.
A lot of this had to do with the fact that you were bedbound, and it was all the power of the mind. It was the time that you had with yourself to decipher one thing and another and to tap into those areas. Am I on the right lines?
Absolutely. The situation I was facing opened up the space and the opportunity for that. It's amplified my connection to my mind. It amplified my connection with my emotions and amplified my connection with the energetic worlds that we live in and the one that we hold within us. Everything's connected. And that really helped in making these tools blossom.
Right.
When I've tried, you know, I help others in their journey as well, and it's harder for those that are not in rock bottom situations. It's harder, and I completely understand why. It's understandable. So instead, the approach is different. It's daily practice with connection to the mind, daily practice with connection to your body, to your emotions. And it is almost like retraining the brain on our perspectives, on our approach to life, almost adapting our beliefs to align with this way of living. And people get there. People
They do
get
get
there,
there.
and it's wonderful to see. You know, it's
Yeah.
wonderful to see that I've been blessed to be given this opportunity to overcome what I did, and be able to share it with others. I feel that's why things happen, you know.
The story doesn't quite stop there, though, because although that you felt very much empowered by your mind and your self-healing, you did have to lean on conventional medicine at some point or another, and there was a very crucial point where you literally were at death's door.
That's right.
What
yeah.
happened there?
So a doctor in London suggested trying out a type of treatment that she believed may work. I went for it. It's called a radiosynovectomy. It's an injection. I took anything, although by then, that was 5 months into my full inability physically. And I took the chance. Obviously, anything helps. But that treatment, through that treatment, I developed a DVT, and the clots came up to my lung, crossed my heart, and settled at the bottom of the opposite lung. So it caused a pulmonary embolism. At that point, I was at high risk. I couldn't fly back home. I was in UK for at least 2 months. And again, emotionally, I had to go through this new turmoil.
Another challenge.
Another challenge. And that's how life works. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't feel a victim at all to anything that was happening. I simply accepted that this, again, is where I was meant to be. My mindset was aligned with that. So every emotion I had to go through, I processed, I let it go. Because I was on a mission to heal. I couldn't allow any stagnant emotions in my body. I couldn't, you know, handle it physically. Although by then I had made progress and this happened, I was also on a very powerful anti-inflammatory diet, which really helped. At that point, I had to stop it as well. And through that diagnosis, they gave me treatment for that. I've always been a very holistic person. simply because my parents gladly encouraged that. They grew me up in that way. But also, naturally, I am very reactive to medication. So I reacted to the anticoagulants and I started hemorrhaging internally without knowing. I started feeling weaker and weaker. People around me started noticing that weakness. And my husband took me to the hospital. Friends of mine came to visit and they said, take her to hospital. You know, they hadn't seen me for a while. They'd noticed a big difference or something. And we did go. And at that point, I was told I was bleeding very heavily, internally and externally. And my bloods came down so drastically, they didn't think I would, you know, I was in a critical state. So at that point, they tried the iron. I reacted really badly against that. And from that, the last resort was a blood transfusion. And it was a last resort because I was so weak at that point and so reactive to everything that they felt I wouldn't make it through the blood transfusion the first 10 minutes. So at 6 in the morning, the doctor came to me and said, you are at a critical stage. Your bloods have come down to a 6.8. Either your heart stops or we try this transfusion and we run the risk of you losing your life within the first 10 minutes. And I needed time to process that.
Yeah.
I needed to accept that. I needed to find peace in that, to be able to fight this, you know, or at least go through it. But I needed to simulate it. I don't know how I managed, but I bought myself 6 hours extra that day. And it came to the point where I needed that blood transfusion. I received it, and thank God I made it through. I can't remember much from it. I was that weak. I couldn't respond at that point. And 2 hours after that first transfusion, I made it through. After that, when I was released from hospital, my conditions were all very, very critical. It was all a catch-22 because now I was on another medication for that. I was still on the anticoagulants, but they had to find the right one that wouldn't trigger the hemorrhaging again. And I couldn't diet anymore. My emotions were now on another level.
Yeah.
I was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder after that experience.
Yeah.
I just came back home after that, and the ambulance had to take me home. Obviously, I wasn't able to get there. And I just wanted to be home with my family and embrace that I made it through that and find myself again.
That's what I was going to say. Find yourself again and start all over again.
That's it.
The power of the mind. But Monique, you're human too.
Absolutely, yeah.
So was there ever a tiny moment where you thought, I can't do this?
Yes, there was. I normally did that by myself. There was no point sharing that with anybody else. This was a very personal journey. I had everybody's support, which allowed that perfect space for me to make conscious choices, you know, of how to manage this. And I did. Especially the pains of CRPS, the suicidal pains. You know, a lot of people don't make it through simply because they take their lives, and I really do understand. It was tempting for me as well because I was told that I wouldn't get over that. It may get better, but once you have it all over your body in that extent, it's incurable. Same as the knee, it was just worsening at that point. Because of all the chemicals, because of all the emotions, because of all the stress, all that feeds the tumor, all that feeds, the vibration, our health.
Yeah.
And there were many times throughout, but when I was experiencing a moment like that, I went through it. I acknowledged it, I went through it, I allowed myself to feel
That's the
fear.
idea, that you have to acknowledge it. This is how I'm feeling in the moment.
Right.
Let it go, and then heal from that moment.
Exactly.
And you go on.
Yes, and some days it's harder to let it go quickly. Sometimes we really need to sit with it for a while. And that didn't mean that, when I interacted with my loved ones I was transmitting that pain. I was very, very conscious of not wanting to transmit that to anybody else. That was my own personal
How
experience.
selfless.
It's a choice we have. It's
Yeah.
a choice we have, and why am I? If I have a choice, why am I going to trigger sadness in my kids or in my husband or in my family? You know, why would I? So because I had the tools, I don't blame anyone who does that, because I was blessed to have the tools to counter that.
Yeah.
So yes, I needed to experience those days. I needed to feel those emotions and get myself through it.
Give us a timeline.
Okay.
Because from, my leg is hurting, to going through this roller coaster, finding yourself, healing yourself to a large degree,
Yeah.
to the beautiful, energetic, smiley mum I have today. What's that timeline?
So January 2018, 7th of January, if I'm not mistaken, 6th or 7th, I was diagnosed with a tumor. That was the first day I couldn't walk. I wasn't diagnosed then. It was the first day I experienced the tumor, the effects of the tumor, not being able to walk. By September 23rd, I believe it was, the nerve damage triggered. The whole body was, disabled. And by February, I had made progress. I was taking steps. I was able to move better some days, but still, still carried a lot of pain, but with a better mobility. So by then I had improved. By February, I received the medication, the treatment. And since February and March, I spent in the UK. End of March, I returned. And from end of March to September, I managed to get myself off the meds completely. I found natural alternatives to do it. I studied even further on how I could heal the tumor, how I could heal the body. It works in a mind, body and soul level. That's why I call the charity Mind, Body and Soul.
So it's been a few years then.
Yes, so that took me to September, where I managed to clear the post-traumatic stress disorder. I had some help from a wonderful therapist locally, but it was very challenging for me to go and see her. And I had ambulance assistance come for me, take me, but it was very painful to have to go there physically. But the moments I did go helped. But then I also studied ways in which I could heal that myself at home. So by September, my emotions felt clean again. And it was until the following September where I had full healing practices going on. I lived breathwork, I lived energy medicine, which is what I believe was the biggest power in healing. I did my diet again, not to the same extreme, but did it. And it took a year to start walking, to start moving better, still with sensitivity. That was 2022. And now I can safely say my life has changed. I don't live the same life I used to. My mindset has completely changed. My outlook to life has changed. I have always been a very positive person, but I feel this has just deepened my well-being, my health, my awareness, my approach to life. It's changed my purpose. There's a lot of things I'm still not able to do. But that doesn't matter, For me, it's about focusing on what I can do. That's why things happen. I believe they happen to align us with a bigger purpose, with where we're meant to be in life. And I simply surrender and trust that process, which is, I believe, why I'm here today and finally, moving about. I can walk. Some days I can even jog.
Oh, wow.
And I feel great, regardless of having a bad day or a good day. But I can safely say that most of the days, I'm feeling good.
So Monique, where are you today? Because you've learnt a lot and you've brought it to people now. How are you doing that?
A couple of years ago, in 2021, I started a charity. And for me, it was very important what I had started with the children. I saw how fruitful it was, how much they were benefiting. So although I couldn't do it, I brought a team together, wonderful people, wonderful souls who are experts in well-being. And they are around schools, after-school programs, providing this wisdom, this well-being tools, mindset tools, emotional regulation for children. I have also, because I've studied a lot of these things, I am now also a qualified practitioner. I do self-healing and well-being coaching mainly. And I also work on a one-to-one level with people wanting to heal. And, you know, from experience, but also using everything I've learned. I studied every modality out there, you know, to help myself. And I don't believe any of that happens for me only. I believe all that happened to be able to share it with others, which is why we're here at the end of the day.
You're an inspiration. And now, give me your hands, because we can hold hands now. It doesn't hurt.
Yes, yes, I can hug and kiss and do everything I want
everything
to
that you
happily
want
now.
and be a great mum and a teacher.
Yes.
Thanks for speaking
Thank
to
you.
me, Monique.
Thank you.